The wind came at him sideways hard enough to sting his eyes and freeze the breath in his throat. Snow whipped across the valley like torn linen, and Sam Blackthorne kept his head low as his horse fought each step. The storm had rolled in fast, swallowing the ridgeline and the trees and every trail he thought he knew. Even his own tracks vanished behind him, as if the valley wanted to erase that he'd ever passed through. He should have turned back an hour ago. Any sane man would have. But the cabin behind him felt colder than the storm ahead, and Sam didn't know how to face its empty walls tonight. Another gust slammed into him. His gelding snorted, nearly losing footing as snow piled against its legs. Sam gripped the saddle horn with stiff fingers, jaw tight, eyes narrowed to slits. The world had become nothing but white and pain and wind. When he crested the low hill above Wind River town, the storm finally showed him something besides its own rage. A faint lantern glow flickered through the swirling snow. Then another. But the buildings themselves, the saloon, the general store, the church steeple were ghost shapes in a world that felt like it was trying to wipe itself clean. The gelding stumbled. Sam steadied him again. "Easy," he murmured through frozen lips. His voice sounded rough, scraped raw by cold and years of silence. Almost there. Almost there. Almost warm. Almost not thinking about Bitter Creek and a girl's startled gasp. He shoved the memory back where it belonged. By the time he reached the main street, shutters banged against their hinges, and snow had drifted high enough to bury a small dog. The Wind River Diner sign swung in wild sweeps, creaking with every blast. Light spilled from its windows, golden, warm, human. He tightened the reins, meaning to ride past. He always rode past, but a sudden burst of wind hit him square in the chest, nearly unseating him. It felt like a shove, like the valley itself telling him he wasn't outrunning anything tonight. He pulled the gelding to the hitching post, tied the reins with stiff fingers, and trudged up the steps. Snow clung to his coat and hair. He pushed the door open with his shoulder, letting heat and voices wash over him in a wave. The air smelled of coffee and wood stove smoke and something fried in bacon grease. It almost made his knees sag with relief. Lila Chavez glanced up from behind the counter. "Lord above Sam Blackthorne, I thought the storm swallowed you." He didn't answer. Talking felt heavy. He just nodded once and moved toward the corner booth, the one with its back against the wall. He didn't sit anywhere else. Heads lifted when he passed. People didn't speak, but their eyes followed him. They always had, ever since the day he arrived in the valley with nothing but scars and a silence no one could break. He set his hat on the seat beside him. Snow melted down his collar. He didn't bother brushing it off. Lila brought him coffee without asking. "You want a plate?" He shook his head. "This is fine." She sighed, the kind that said she'd given up trying to get him to eat something real. Then she walked away. Sam wrapped both hands around the warm mug, letting the heat soak into skin gone bone cold. His pulse was still too fast from the storm. He forced himself to breathe slow. Wind roared outside, rattling the window panes. The diner door opened again, letting in another spray of snow. Sam didn't look up at first. He tried not to look at people unless he had to. But something, maybe the hush of voices as they shifted toward the door, made him glance up. A woman stepped inside, bundled in a wool coat, with travel dust still clinging to the hem of her skirt. Her cheeks were flushed from the cold, her dark hair damp with melting flakes. She carried a single suitcase and stood for a moment, as if steadying herself after miles of rough road. She spoke softly to Lila. Her voice carried warmth even in the middle of a storm. Sam looked away fast. He didn't stare at strangers. didn't take interest in anything that could look back. But he felt her presence anyway. When he risked one more glance, she met his gaze for the briefest flicker of a moment. Something steadied in her eyes. Something calm and certain. Sam looked sharply back at his coffee. The diner filled quickly as men sought shelter from the storm. Tables crowded, voices rose, boots scraped, and still Sam sat alone in the corner booth trying not to think of the girl in Bitter Creek or why he couldn't stay in his cabin tonight. Lila approached him quietly. "New school teacher came on the coach this evening," she said. "Brave one traveling through this hell." He didn't lift his head. "Storm wasn't this bad earlier." "It was bad enough you shouldn't have been out in it," she answered. "She'll need help getting settled." Sam didn't respond. He never did when people hinted he should help someone. Lila sighed again. Try not to scare her off with that glacier of a face. But her teasing didn't reach him. Nothing did. He took another slow sip of coffee. Across the room, the woman finished speaking with Lila. She lifted her suitcase and scanned the diner for an open seat. The place was packed, every table claimed by families, ranch hands, surveyors, loggers. Every table except his. Sam felt his chest tighten. No. She would choose anywhere else. She'd squeeze in with the blacksmith's boys. She'd stand. She'd wait. But she was already walking toward him. Her boots clicked softly on the wood floor. Snow still clung to the hem of her skirt. Her breath left faint clouds in the warmer air. She reached his table. "Excuse me," she said gently. "They told me this is the only open seat." "May I join you?" Sam felt the words jam in his throat. He managed a slight nod, more a surrender than an invitation. She smiled, a small, tired, grateful smile. "Thank you." She set down her suitcase and slid into the booth across from him. "I'm Mira Fallon." Sam swallowed. Sam. Just Sam. He hesitated. "Sam Blackthorne." "Nice to meet you, Sam Blackthorne." Her voice wasn't afraid of him, or curious, or suspicious. It was simply warm. The storm battered the diner's windows. Somewhere outside, a shutter banged like a loose warning. Inside, for the first time in years, Sam didn't feel quite so hollow. He didn't know what would happen next. Didn't know why this woman had chosen his table or why her presence made the storm seem quieter. But he knew something had shifted. He felt it deep, like cold water turning warm. And from the corner of his eye, he saw Mira glance toward the schoolhouse road, buried in snow, half blind in the storm. Tomorrow that road would lead them both somewhere they didn't expect, and Sam Blackthorne would not be able to ignore it. Some rooms sag from snow, others sag from years of waiting for someone to care. The thought crossed Mira Fallon's mind as she pushed open the warped door of the Wind River schoolhouse the next morning. The hinges groaned like something waking from a long, unwilling sleep. A gust of cold rushed out to meet her, carrying the sharp smell of old wood dust and a winter that had clawed its way inside. She stepped into the dim room and blinked against the gloom. Snow filtered through gaps in the roof seams, trailing soft, white flecks down onto the crooked rows of desks. Some desks wobbled. Some had initials carved into them. One was so uneven it leaned forward as if ready to kneel. The stove in the corner sat cold as stone. Beside it, a chipped bucket held a handful of coal that looked like it had been counted and rationed with care. Mira set her satchel on the teacher's table. A long crack ran across the surface like a lightning bolt. She brushed away dust with her sleeve, exhaled, and rolled up her coat sleeves. She hadn't crossed half the Wyoming territory to be defeated by a schoolroom. She lit the lantern she carried from the boarding house and set it on the table. A warm circle of light spread across the room, chasing back the shadows. Outside, the wind blew thin and sharp, rattling the windows. Her breath puffed in the cold. She rubbed her arms briskly, trying to bring warmth back into them. She'd survived colder mornings than this back east, but here the cold felt older, deeper, like it had its own memory. "Cold place," a voice said behind her. Mira startled. The lantern flickered. An elderly man stood in the doorway, wrapped in a thick buffalo hide coat. He had strong cheekbones, long gray braids, and eyes that held something still and knowing. Snow clung to his shoulders like frost on a pine. "Sorry," he said softly. "Didn't mean to frighten you." She steadied herself and managed a breath. "I didn't hear anyone coming. Snow makes people quiet." He stepped inside. "Name's Red Elk." She recognized the name. Several townsfolk had mentioned him, some with respect, some with hesitation. Mira straightened. "I'm Mira Fallon, the new teacher." He looked around the room with a patient sadness. "These walls have seen many winters. Some good, some hard. They're about to see another." Mira set her hands on her hips. "I intend to keep them upright." He nodded once, approving the resolve in her voice. "Children will start arriving soon. Some Shoshone, some settlers. You will have many eyes on you." "I expect as much," she said. "I just hope I'm ready." "You are." He tapped the beam above them with the end of his walking stick. "But this roof is not." Snow sifted down at the touch, landing in her hair. She brushed it off, half laughing. "That much I can see." He gave a faint smile. "A man in town fixes roofs well. Quiet man. Doesn't ask for thanks." A pause. "He was at the diner last night." Mira's heartbeat shifted ever so slightly. Sam. He had barely spoken, barely moved, yet still left an impression she hadn't expected. "He's not much for company," Red Elk added, "but he listens when the valley speaks." Mira didn't know what to say to that. Before she could respond, the first group of children arrived, 3 from a Shoshone family who lived along the river. They approached quietly, taking in the room, and Mira with cautious eyes. Soon after, settler children rushed in with chattering voices and stomping boots. The schoolhouse warmed with breath and energy, though the air remained cold. Mira moved among them, welcoming each child by name when she could, repeating the names she couldn't, learning their faces. She noticed the way some children kept to themselves, how others mixed without hesitation. She listened. She observed. She adapted. She taught arithmetic until their fingers grew too cold to write. She gathered them around the stove and told a story from a book in her satchel until the stove warmed enough to chase the worst chill away. The room sagging as it was felt less tired with children inside. Around midday, a sharp rap sounded at the door. Sam Blackthorne filled the doorway. Snow dusted his shoulders, and his coat hung heavy from the morning's ride. His hair was still damp from melted flakes, and the cold seemed reluctant to let go of him. His eyes scanned the room briefly before settling on Mira. "I heard you needed the roof looked at," he said. She blinked in surprise. "Already I didn't expect storm last night hit it worse than most." He stepped further inside, removing his gloves. "Figured you'd want it fixed before another." Children whispered. Not frightened, curious. Mira noticed the way they watched him with wide eyes, like he was a story they'd heard in fragments. "Do you mind?" he asked her quietly. "No," she said. "Please. We'd be grateful." Red Elk, sitting in the back of the room, as if he'd never left, gave Sam a small nod. Something old and subtle passed between the two men like a river current beneath still water. Sam moved with quiet confidence, inspecting beams, testing weak boards with one boot, listening to the shift of weight above him. He didn't speak unless necessary. He didn't linger near anyone. And yet Mira sensed a gentleness in the way he handled every tool. At one point, he reached for a loose shingle on the roof's edge. His boot slipped on ice hidden beneath fresh snow. Mira gasped, stepping forward instinctively. He steadied himself with one hand. Their eyes met his, composed, hers shaken. He looked away first. "Just a slip," he muttered. But she continued to watch him pulse unsteady. When he climbed down near the end of the day, children had gathered near the steps to hand him nails boards or simply watch. Their fascination softened him in ways Mira noticed even if he didn't. "You fixed what you could?" she asked, brushing snow from her skirts as the children bundled up to leave. "For now," Sam said. "But the next storm will test it." She smiled. "So will the next batch of students." His mouth tugged in the smallest hint of a smile before fading again. "You did well today." "How do you know?" she asked, surprising herself. He lowered his gaze. "Kids looked warmer when they left than when they came in." That simple observation touched her more than she expected. Sam replaced his gloves. "Storm's building again tonight. You should head back before dark." "I will," she answered, though she found herself watching him longer than she meant to. As he turned to leave, the children ran past them toward home. Their footsteps scattered across the snow. The cold thickened. The sky darkened. Red Elk approached Mira. "Quiet men carry heavy snow in their hearts," he said. "Sometimes it takes a stronger storm to make them move." Mira glanced toward Sam, who was already walking down the path alone. "I hope this place hasn't made him colder," she murmured. Red Elk shook his head. "No. The cold is from somewhere else." She didn't know why, but she believed him. Behind her, a beam creaked again. The schoolhouse was tired, but so she thought was Sam. She had a feeling both would need more than repairs. Days ahead. And tomorrow the whispers she hadn't yet heard would begin to reach her ears. A town this small doesn't need facts to build a story, just a name and a shadow. The storm eased overnight, leaving Wind River Valley blanketed in white so bright it hurt the eyes. Morning sunlight bounced off rooftops and fences, making the town look peaceful in a way Mira Fallon suspected was largely an illusion. The cold was knife-sharp, the kind that bit through gloves and numbed fingertips, but for once the wind stayed still. She walked toward the schoolhouse, wrapped in her wool coat boots, crunching through fresh snow. Children ran ahead of her, sending sprays of powder into the air. Their laughter carried on the cold, reminding her how quickly young spirits adapt to harsh places. But Mira noticed something else as she approached the main street eyes. Not accusing, but curious. Not unfriendly, but watchful. It was the same quiet interest she'd sensed the night before in the diner, only sharper now, as if the storm had washed the air clean enough for whispers to float freely. Lila Chavez waved her over from outside the diner's door, where she was sweeping snow off the porch. "You're making ripples already," Lila said with a raised brow. "I've only been here 2 days," Mira replied. "That's all it takes in Wind River." Lila dusted the broom bristles on the railing. "Word is you sat with Sam Blackthorne." Mira's breath caught, though she didn't know why. It was the only open seat. "A seat folks don't take," Lila said. Then softer. "Not unless they mean to." Mira shook her head. "I didn't know sitting at a table required a declaration of intent." Lila smirked. "Around here, everything means something." Mira thanked her and continued on, but Lila's words followed her like a cold wind. When she reached the schoolhouse, Sam's repairs still held. The room was cold, but no new snow seeped through the roof. She lit her stove early, letting it battle the morning chill, and arranged her books while students trickled in. Shoshone children sat near the window. Settler children huddled near the stove. Elijah Two Rivers stopped by, briefly leaning in the doorway with his arms crossed. "You were at the diner last night," he said. Mira nodded. "The storm herded us all into the same place." His eyes softened in amusement. Storm didn't herd Sam anywhere. That man avoids crowds like they owe him money. She couldn't help smiling. He seemed kind enough. Elijah rolled one shoulder. "He is. But people don't forget what they think they know." "What do they think they know?" He hesitated, jaw tightening. "Stories grow here like weeds. Hard to tell which ones have roots." Before Mira could ask more, the two children tugged Elijah's sleeve, pulling him outside to look at some tracks near the river. He gave her a brief nod before stepping out. The morning passed in lessons, chalk dust, and the usual tangle of childhood energy. Mira focused on the children, but the feeling of being watched lingered. Each time she glanced up, she caught someone's eye through the window, only for them to move on quickly. During the noon break, she stepped outside for a breath of fresh air. Across the street, Callie Mercer stood on the porch of her general store, with her apron dusted in flour, pretending to arrange jars in the window. When she saw Mira, she waved her over. Mira crossed the street, pulling her coat tight. "You holding up all right?" Callie asked when she reached her. "I heard the schoolhouse is more draft than wall these days." "It's a challenge," Mira said lightly. "But challenges keep life interesting." "That they do." Callie gave her an intent look. "Heard you and Sam Blackthorne shared a table last night." Mira blinked. "Is that unusual?" Callie huffed. "Most folks give him more space than a mountain lion. Folks don't know whether to pity him, fear him, or leave him be." "Why?" Mira asked. Callie wiped her hands on her apron. "Because folks remember things. And because when a man stays silent, people fill the silence with their own stories." Mira thought of Sam on the roof, careful and gentle despite the cold. Of his steady voice, absent of arrogance or cruelty. He didn't seem dangerous. "He's not," Callie answered. "But people don't forget Bitter Creek, even when they should." A cold prickling ran along Mira's spine. What happened there? Callie looked past Mira toward the schoolhouse. "He'll tell you if he wants to. Or he won't. But people talk, oh, they talk plenty." Callie lowered her voice. "Some say he shot a thief. Some say he shot the wrong person. Some say he fled. Some say he was chased." "Which is true?" Callie shook her head. "No one knows except Sam. And he keeps the truth locked up tight." Mira's heart sank, though she wasn't sure why. Maybe it was the thought of him carrying a burden alone. Maybe it was the ease with which rumors stuck to a man who didn't defend himself. As if summoned by her thoughts, Sam appeared down the street heading toward the smithy. He didn't look over, didn't break stride. He moved like a man who'd learned to exist on the edges of things. Callie followed Mira's gaze. "He's not trouble," she said, "but troubles followed him before." Mira watched Sam disappear around a corner. He helped fix the roof. "And he'll help again," Callie said. "That's the thing about him. He keeps his distance, but his hands are always there when the valley needs them." Mira turned the words over in her mind all afternoon. After school, as the children left in small clusters and the valley began to dim under the early winter dusk, Red Elk appeared beside her again. He moved like the snow itself, quiet, unhurried. "Whispers reached your ears today," he said, not as a question. "Yes," Mira admitted softly. And what do you think of them? I don't know what to believe, she said. But I don't think Sam is the man people paint him to be. Red Elk nodded once, eyes thoughtful. Good. Then you see with your own sight. She met his gaze. Do you know his story? I know enough, he said. Enough to know people can be wrong. He turned toward the river. And enough to know some storms come from inside a man, not the sky. Mira looked back at the schoolhouse, then at the path Sam had taken earlier. Will those storms touch me? She asked. Red Elk considered her. Only if you choose to stand where he stands. The cold deepened. Children's voices faded in the distance. Mira shivered despite her coat. Red Elk stepped away. Tomorrow the snow will speak again, and so will the children, and so will the town. He paused, giving her a steady look. And Sam will hear it all. Mira knew then that whatever shadow followed Sam into Wind River hadn't finished its journey yet. And tomorrow would bring the first sign of just how close that shadow still lingered. Children believe mountain spirits mend roofs. Adults only pretend they don't. By the time Mira reached the schoolhouse the next morning, the sky had turned a clean winter blue, and the air held a brittle stillness, the kind that warned of more snow on the way. Her boots crunched across icy patches as she crossed the yard, breath misting before her. She reached for the door, then froze. Fresh footprints carved a path across the snow, large, deliberate prints circling the building and stopping beneath the broken roof beam. They weren't from any child. They weren't from Red Elk either, and they weren't there yesterday. Mira stepped closer, brushing her glove against the frost on the window. Inside, a ladder leaned against the roof beam. A hammer lay on the floor. A length of timber rested nearby as if someone had measured it before stepping away. Her heartbeat jumped. He had come back. She pushed open the door, and warm air brushed past her. Someone had lit the stove. Someone had arrived long before sunrise. Sam Blackthorne was standing on the ladder, half-shadowed by morning light. Snow dusted his hair and shoulders. He held a hammer in one hand, studying the beam with quiet focus. He didn't look down when she stepped inside. "You're earlier than yesterday." "So are you," she replied. "I said the storm would test this roof." His voice was calm but carried an undercurrent she hadn't heard before, a kind of urgency. It failed. Mira took another step inside. "You don't have to do this alone." Sam shifted his weight slightly, climbing one rung higher. "I do most things alone." "I noticed." She tried to keep her tone light. "But you don't have to keep doing it." He didn't answer at first. Just drove the hammer into the wood, once steady and strong. The sound echoed through the schoolhouse like a heartbeat. Down below, children clustered near the doorway, whispering wide-eyed. "He came back," one of the boys murmured. "Told you he's a mountain spirit," another whispered. "No spirit uses a hammer," a girl countered. Sam paused when he heard them, looked down with a faint, startled expression, then stepped off the ladder to give them a clear path inside. Mira hid a smile behind her hand. "You seem to have an audience." "I'd prefer not to," Sam muttered. But the children didn't shy away. They moved toward him with a mix of awe and boldness. One of the younger Shoshone boys held out a wooden peg. "You dropped this." Sam took it gently. "Thank you." The boy beamed. Red Elk stepped inside a moment later, leaning on his walking stick. Children see truth before adults twist it into shapes that suit them. Sam shot him a dry look. "You're not helping." Red Elk shrugged. "Didn't say I came to help." But Mira saw the fondness behind his words. She also saw the way Sam's shoulders eased ever so slightly. The space between the three of them, Sam Red Elk herself, felt strangely natural, like pieces fitting together in a puzzle none of them realized existed. Sam inspected the beam again, then glanced at Mira. This one's rotten through. Needs replacing. Can it hold until tomorrow? She asked. It shouldn't. But it might. He hesitated. I'd rather not gamble with a roof over children's heads. His concern warmed her more than the stove ever could. She nodded. What do you need? More boards, fresh nails, and maybe a hand steadying the ladder. I can do that, she said. Red Elk chuckled. You'll do fine. Teacher hands can steady more than books. Sam pretended not to hear that, but a faint color rose in his cheeks. As the day went on, lessons unfolded around the steady rhythm of hammer blows and the smell of sawdust. Children recited arithmetic while Sam measured beams. Mira taught reading while Red Elk told two of the older boys how to split logs safely. At one point, Mira stepped outside to fetch water from the pump. When she returned, Sam was on the roof, his silhouette stark against the pale sky. Snowflakes drifted slowly around him. For a moment, she simply watched. He moved with complete stillness of purpose, no wasted gesture, no hesitation. Only a man quietly repairing what was broken. She carried the water inside. A few minutes later, she heard the sudden slide of a boot on ice above her. Mira froze. Sam's hand shot out, fingers catching the edge of the roof just in time. His boots scraped against the ice again. He caught his balance, steadying himself. Mira gasped, heart thudding. Sam. He didn't look down, only let out a slow breath as though calming something inside him. It's fine. That didn't look fine, she said sharply. He paused and then came down the ladder. As his boots touched the ground, she stepped toward him without thinking, eyes searching his face. Are you hurt? No. His voice was low. I'm not used to someone worrying. Mira softened. Well, get used to it. His eyes flickered, then drifted away from hers, as though he didn't know how to hold the moment. She wanted to reach for his hand, but kept still. He returned to his work quieter now, more cautious. By late afternoon, the roof held firm beams secure and seams sealed. Sam packed his tools and looked over the schoolhouse with the slightest sense of satisfaction tugging at the corners of his mouth. The children clapped when he finished. He stiffened, startled. Mira laughed. They're thanking you. I didn't do it for thanks, he muttered. I know, she said. But sometimes people are allowed to appreciate kindness. He slung his tool belt over his shoulder. Storm's coming again. You should head out before dusk. We all will, Mira promised. Red Elk stepped forward, resting a hand briefly on Sam's shoulder. Good work. Sam didn't respond, but the acknowledgement settled into him. As Mira gathered her things, she noticed Sam watching the distant ridge with a troubled expression. The sky had darkened. A cold wind slid across the valley. What is it? She asked. Sam shook his head. Snow's going quiet. That usually means something's moving. Something dangerous, she pressed. Could be, he said, or could be nothing. But she saw the tension in his jaw, the shift in his posture, the shadow behind his eyes. Red Elk moved to Sam's side. Tracks were near the river this morning. Elijah saw them. Sam's gaze sharpened. Human horse tracks, Red Elk replied. Fresh. A silence fell. Sam's expression turned guarded, focused, as if some old part of him had snapped awake. Whoever it is, Sam said, they're close. Red Elk nodded. Elijah is watching. Mira's heart tightened. She didn't fully understand what was happening, but she could feel the storm, internal and external, building again. Sam stepped back toward the path leading to town. "I'll see you tomorrow," he said quietly. She wanted to call after him, ask more, push past his walls, but the wind swallowed her words. And as Sam disappeared into the gathering dusk, she knew one thing for certain. Whatever shadow had followed him to Wind River, it was almost here. When she took his arm, half the church forgot their hymns. Sunday morning rose slow and silver over Wind River Valley. The storm clouds had slid east in the night, leaving a thin frost over every fence post, rooftop, and wagon wheel. Church bells from Reverend Yoder's chapel rang through the crisp air, soft and steady, urging the town toward warmth and worship. Mira Fallon stood on the front step of the boarding house, smoothing the skirt of her blue dress. The fabric was simple but clean. Her gloves were frayed at the fingertips. She felt the cold in her bones, but something like steadiness warmed her from the inside. She wasn't nervous about church. She'd attended dozens across the prairie towns on her long journey here. No, what made her heart beat a little faster was the man waiting at the bottom of the steps. Sam Blackthorne stood with his hat in his hands, boots planted firm in the frost. His dark hair brushed his collar. His coat looked freshly brushed, though his shoulders still carried that familiar weight. He glanced up as she stepped forward. "You didn't have to walk with me," she said gently, watching him closely. "You asked." He shrugged one shoulder. "I said I would." "And you always keep your word," she teased. His gaze shifted away. "I try." They stood for a beat, a stillness forming between them. Then Mira offered her hand, soft but certain. "Shall we?" Sam hesitated, just long enough for her to wonder if he might step back into the shadow he lived in. Then he took her arm quietly, carefully, as though it was something fragile and rare. They walked together toward the church. The effect was immediate. Curtains shifted in windows. Boots slowed on doorsteps. Conversations paused mid-sentence. Families heading toward the chapel glanced at Mira, then at Sam, then back again, with widened eyes. Children whispered loudly enough to be heard. Teachers walking with him. With Sam Blackthorne, "I told you he wasn't a ghost." Mira ignored the murmurs. Sam did too, though. His posture grew tighter with each step. She could feel the tension in his arm, the way he held himself like a man prepared for impact. "Does this bother you?" she asked softly. He shook his head, though the tick in his jaw said otherwise. "People have always talked." "About what happened," she pressed. "About what they think happened," he corrected. Mira slowed her steps. "Do you want to turn back?" "No." He kept moving. "You asked me to walk you. That's enough." Inside the church, warmth wrapped around them, lantern-light pine wood, the smell of wool coats drying. Families filled the benches. The creak of boots on floorboards echoed as people shifted. Conversations wilted into silence. Mira could feel the ripples spread through the room as she and Sam entered. Reverend Abram Yoder, kind-faced, silver-haired, steady as a mountain, paused mid-greeting when he saw them. He hid his surprise with practiced grace and motioned them forward. "Miss Fallon," he said warmly. "Good to have you." Then his eyes moved to Sam. "Morning, Sam." Sam gave a respectful nod. "Reverend." "You two sit wherever you like," Yoder said. But as they moved down the aisle, Mira felt the walls of silence pressing in. Families shifted. Some stared. Some looked away. A few nodded politely. But the collective weight of the room settled on them like a thick blanket. Sam motioned toward a bench near the back. "Here." Mira sat beside him. The wood was cold through her coat, but Sam's presence next to her felt grounding. Reverend Yoder began the service with a hymn. Mira sang softly. Sam did not sing, but he stood tall and respectful. He kept his eyes forward, expression unreadable, as though bracing himself against something only he could see. Halfway through the sermon, Mira risked a look at him. His jaw remained tight. His fingers curled in his lap. A shadow flickered behind his eyes, not of anger, but of endurance. People could stare all they wanted, Sam seemed used to it. But Mira felt a spark of something fierce in her chest. A quiet defiance on his behalf. When the service ended, families filed past them with stiff nods and murmured greetings. Some whispered behind gloved hands. Some avoided his eyes. A few mostly Shoshone families gave Sam respectful inclinations of the head. Red Elk approached them last. He leaned on his walking stick and offered Mira a solemn smile. "Good to see you here," he said to her. Then to Sam, "You did right coming." Sam didn't respond, but Mira sensed gratitude in the tilt of his head. As they stepped outside, the cold hit them again. Children threw handfuls of snow at one another in the yard. Horses stamped their hooves near the hitching post. The world felt alive again after the hush of the church. Mira looked at Sam as they reached the steps. "Thank you for walking me." He nodded once. "Didn't hurt." She laughed gently. "You say that like it was supposed to." He didn't smile, not quite, but something in his face eased. Then she saw Clara Holt across the yard. The deputy stood with her coat-buttoned high hat, tipped low eyes fixed on Sam, with the sharp, assessing gaze of someone who knew trouble when she saw its shadow. She didn't move toward them, but she nodded at Sam, measured, cautious. Sam nodded back. Mira felt the tension return to his arm. "Do you two know each other well?" she asked. "She keeps the town safe," Sam said. "Sometimes that means keeping an eye on me." Mira frowned. "Does she think you're dangerous?" Sam's voice was quiet. "She thinks trouble isn't done with me." A chill moved through Mira, colder than the winter air. Before she could ask more, Clara turned toward the sheriff's office, boots crunching through the snow with purpose. Mira watched her go. "Is she right?" Sam exhaled, slow and steady. "Storm last night went quiet too fast." Red Elk said Elijah saw tracks near the river. Human tracks, horse tracks. His eyes shifted toward the distant ridge. "Someone's riding this direction." She swallowed. "You think they're coming for you?" "I think they're not lost," he said simply. A silence settled between them, weighted by the unspoken. Mira pulled her coat tighter. "What do you plan to do?" "Same thing I've done since the day I got here." His voice was low. "Stay out of trouble. Don't give anyone reason to stir up old ghosts." "And if the ghosts come anyway?" she whispered. Sam looked at her, then really looked. "Then I deal with them." Mira felt her throat tighten. He stepped back, giving her space. "You should head home before the cold gets worse." "And you?" she asked. "I need to check something by the river." She hesitated. Sam hot. His walls were back up, quiet and solid. "I'll see you tomorrow," he said. She watched him walk away across the snow-covered yard, shadow long behind him. Steps deliberate, as though he already knew the tracks waiting for him near the water. Mira touched her gloved hand to her chest. Tomorrow, she realized, wouldn't just be another school day. Tomorrow, something was going to break. Snow hides tracks, Sam, but not truth. The next morning dawned bleak and heavy, the sky a dull gray sheet stretching from ridge to ridge. Snow had fallen again in the night, softer this time, blanketing Wind River Valley in a thick silence. Even the crows stayed quiet. The world felt muted, as if bracing for something it already sensed coming. Mira Fallon trudged through the fresh drifts toward the schoolhouse, lantern in hand, her breath clouding the air. The cold clung to her lashes. Her boots sank deep with each step. She wasn't the first to arrive. Sam Blackthorne was already there. He stood at the schoolhouse door with his gloved hands tucked into his coat pockets, snow clinging to his shoulders. He'd cleared the path again, every inch of it, even the steps, as if he'd come before dawn. Morning Mira said, a mix of surprise and warmth in her voice. Figured the children shouldn't have to wade through half the valley, he replied. His tone was calm, but something in it felt stretched thin. Did you sleep at all? She asked carefully. For a moment he didn't answer. Then some. He didn't look at her when he said it. Mira stepped closer, studying him. His eyes were darker than usual, shadowed with thoughts he hadn't spoken aloud. Did you find anything by the river yesterday? She asked. Sam hesitated, just long enough to confirm her worry. Maybe he said it last. Hard to tell with the snow coming down again. But you think someone was there? I think someone rode close, then stopped. His jaw tightened. Listening. The wind brushed past them like a whisper. Mira wrapped her coat tighter. And you think it has something to do with you? Sam didn't nod, didn't confirm, but she could read it in the tight line of his shoulders. Snow hides tracks, Sam. But not truth, she said softly. His gaze shifted to her, then slow and deliberate. Something flickered behind his eyes. Surprise or maybe recognition. She wasn't sure. He opened the schoolhouse door for her. You should get inside. It's colder today. She stepped through but didn't miss the way he scanned the tree line before following her. Like a man checking the horizon for a storm that only he could see. Inside the stove was already warm. He must have lit it before she arrived. The room held the comforting smell of kindling and old wood. Thank you, she said, as she set her lantern down. For what he asked. For being here. He didn't answer. Just adjusted the coal in the stove and stepped back as the first students arrived. Bundled children, leaving trails of snow on the floorboards. They greeted Sam shyly. He gave them a brief nod, then retreated toward the door. Staying, Mira asked, half hopeful. No, Sam said. Just making sure everything's warm. Their eyes met one last time before he slipped outside into the hush of winter. He didn't say where he was going. He didn't need to. The morning passed in a strange balance of calm and tension. Mira taught arithmetic, while the younger children giggled at their own crooked numbers. The older boys tried to challenge her with questions they weren't sure she knew how to answer. She surprised them each time. But the peace was fragile. Twice she caught the older children glancing out the window toward the river. Twice she saw shadows move among the trees, only animals perhaps, or the sway of branches in the wind. But unease settled into the room like dust. Near midday, Red Elk arrived carrying a bundle of wood. The children adored him. They hurried to clear a space by the stove. He placed the logs gently beside the iron door, then approached Mira with a solemn calm. Cold day, he said. That seems to be every day, she replied. Red Elk gave her a measured look. Some colds come from air, some come from worry. Mira wiped chalk from her hands. Sam's worried. Then you see clearly. Do you know who might be out there? She asked. Red Elk shook his head. Tracks come and go. Riders pass through. But some tracks linger. Like ghosts, Mira said before she could stop herself. Red Elk raised a brow. You believe in them, I'm starting to think Sam has one. Not one, Red Elk corrected. Many, but one that still walks. A chill moved through Mira's chest. Has anyone spoken to Sam about it? She whispered. Sam speaks when the time is right, Red Elk said. He carries his truth like winter carries the river frozen on the surface, moving beneath. A sudden knock at the door interrupted them. Elijah Two Rivers stepped in snow in his hair, eyes sharp and watchful. He gave the room a quick survey, then walked straight toward Mira and Red Elk. Tracks again, Elijah said. On the ridge this time. Mira's breath caught. Human horses, Elijah said. 2 sets, one heavier than the other. Red Elk frowned. Following someone feels like it. Elijah said quietly. Feels like they're circling. Mira felt the weight of the words settle into her bones. Does Sam know? Should Elijah said. He's out there looking. Red Elk nodded. Go find him. Elijah left as quickly as he came, fading into the bright white glare outside. Mira stared at the door long after it closed. Her stomach tightened with worry she could no longer deny. Sam was out there searching for shadows on a ridge that seemed to move only when he wasn't looking. The children returned to their lessons, unaware of the coil tightening around her thoughts. The hours passed slower than usual, and every gust of wind made her glance toward the windows. By the time the last lesson ended, she felt wrung thin. The children bundled in their coats and spilled into the cold afternoon voices, trailing behind them like bright ribbons. When the final student left, Mira stepped outside, expecting the familiar quiet of early winter dusk. Instead, she nearly collided with Sam. He stood at the bottom of the steps, breathing hard snow clinging to his hair again. His eyes were dark, alert, edged with something he couldn't hide. Sam, she breathed. Where have you tracks? He said quickly. Same as last night. This time they were closer. Someone's watching the schoolhouse. Fear prickled down her spine. Me? No. His voice hardened. Me. She stepped down toward him, heart tight. Sam, you need to tell me what's happening. He shook his head. Not yet. Why? Because I'm not sure. His breath misted the air. And I won't scare you with half-truths. Mira swallowed, feeling frustration and fear mix inside her. I'm already scared. Sam looked at her, then really looked, and she saw something crack beneath his calm. He reached for her hand, hesitated, then let it fall. Mira, I don't want you caught in anything that comes for me. And I don't want you facing it alone, she said. He drew back as if the closeness hurt. I've faced everything alone. And how has that served you? She asked quietly. His silence said everything. A sharp wind cut across the yard, slicing between them. Sam glanced toward the ridge, expression tightening again. Tomorrow, he said. You'll have answers. I promise. But tonight, she began. Tonight, he interrupted gently, I want you somewhere warm. He stepped away from her boots, crunching over the icy ground. Mira watched him walk toward the river path, shoulders drawn, steps tense with purpose. The cold deepened. The sky dimmed. And she knew with a certainty she didn't want to feel that the storm Sam sensed was no longer distant. It was already in the valley. I aimed for a thief and struck the wrong life. The wind stung his cheeks as Sam Blackthorne walked along the frozen bend of Wind River Creek, the world glowing with pale winter light. Ice cracked softly beneath the surface of the water, the sound whispering along the banks like something ancient. The valley was quiet, too quiet, as if nature itself held its breath. Mira followed a few steps behind him, boots sinking into the snow, her breath leaving small clouds behind her. She had not asked where they were going. She sensed he needed the silence before the words. Sam stopped near a cluster of bare willows. Frost coated the branches in thin crystals. The creek beyond them lay wide and frozen, its surface shining like dull glass. He kept his back to her for a long moment. "I come here when I need to think," he said, voice low. Mira stepped beside him. The cold pressed against her skin until it burned. "You said you'd tell me today," she whispered. Sam nodded once. "I did." For a long moment, all she heard was the river shifting under ice. Then Sam took a slow breath, as if bracing himself for impact. "You know I used to carry a marshal's badge." Mira waited, not speaking, not pushing. "Bitter Creek's a rough place," he said. "Always was. The kind of town where trouble waits under porch boards." His jaw tightened. "I worked there 5 years. Thought I could clean up the worst of it." He paused, gaze locked on the frozen water. A group of brothers rode through. The Blackwell men. Robbers. Mean ones. They hit 3 towns in 2 weeks. Bitter Creek was next. Mira's breath caught. "I've heard that name." "Most folks have." Sam pressed his hands together, gloved knuckles whitening. "We tracked them through the canyon, got close at sundown. They ran toward the old freight road. I followed on foot trying to get a shot before they reached higher ground." He turned to her, then expression carved from something painful. "I shouldn't have taken the shot. I knew the range was too far, but I saw one of them dragging someone with him. A girl." Mira felt her chest tighten. "A hostage, yes," he said softly. "Or so I thought." The silence that followed cut colder than the wind. "I fired." His voice shook in a way she had never heard before. And when I reached her, she was already gone. Mira closed her eyes, heart aching for the weight he carried. Sam swallowed hard. She wasn't a hostage. Jonas Hale. Her brother told the court the Blackwells forced her out of their house to carry supplies. She broke free when she saw me chasing them. He looked away again. She ran right into the bullet meant for someone else. The creek groaned under shifting ice. Sam's face was stark against the pale light. "They cleared me," he said quietly. "Said it was an accident, said I followed procedure. But Jonas didn't accept that. And I—" He exhaled shakily. "I didn't either." Mira stepped closer, her voice barely above a breath. "Sam." "I quit the next morning. Left Bitter Creek before sunrise." His shoulders slumped in a way she had not seen before. "I rode here because this valley is quiet. Because no one knew me. Because I could work land and not look anyone in the eye. And carry this alone," she said gently. He nodded. "I aimed for a thief and struck the wrong life." His voice broke. "That truth doesn't leave a man." Mira reached for his hand before she fully realized it. Her glove brushed his warm through the cold. "You didn't run from justice," she said. "You ran from grief." Sam turned toward her slow and hesitant, as if her words had reached somewhere inside him he no longer believed existed. She held his gaze. "You're not the monster people whisper about. You made a terrible mistake. And you've been punishing yourself ever since." He shook his head. "Punishment doesn't bring her back." "No," Mira said, "but refusing to live doesn't honor her either." His breath hitched. The frost on his lashes caught the morning light. For a moment he looked younger, softer, painfully human. I thought maybe if I stayed quiet enough, stayed alone, stayed. He paused, searching for words. Small. Maybe the world would forget. Has it? Mira asked. Sam let out a low breath. No. She squeezed his hand gently. Then let someone stand with you in this. Sam looked at her with disbelief, as though he couldn't reconcile forgiveness with the shape of his guilt. Mira, he said, voice low, you don't understand what comes with this. Jonas Hale might be in this valley. Elijah saw tracks. If he's here for one reason. She took another step forward, so close the cold escaped between them. Then you shouldn't face him alone. I have to, Sam said. But his voice had lost its conviction. I don't want you caught in the fire between us. You can't protect me from caring, she whispered. The wind quieted. The whole valley seemed to hold still. Sam looked away toward the ridge, jaw set. The truth changes things. Only if you let it. Mira answered. She watched him absorb her words, watched the battle inside him, the part that wanted to retreat into solitude, and the part that wanted for the first time in years to trust someone. Finally, he let out a breath that fogged the air. I appreciate you more than you know, he murmured. She smiled softly. Then let it show. His hand tightened around hers, barely perceptible but real. A connection made of pain and tenderness, and something slowly mending. After a moment, he looked at the sky. Clouds thickened again, darker than before. We should go, he said. Storm is building again. Mira nodded, but didn't let go of his hand until he finally pulled away with care, like he wasn't quite ready either. They walked back toward the main road side by side. The trees shifted in the wind, and the distant ridge seemed to darken. Sam slowed his pace. There's something else. Mira looked up. What is it? Elijah said. The tracks by the ridge weren't alone. He paused. Looked like the rider waited. Watched. Watched for you, she whispered. Sam nodded. The weight of it pressed against them both like a gathering storm. What happens now? She asked. Sam's voice was quiet, steady, resolved. Now we get ready. Because whoever is riding these tracks is coming closer. Mira breathed in the cold air, heart pounding. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but she knew one thing: they would face it together. His cabin looked lived in for the first time in 8 years. The sun slipped behind the ridge, early leaving Wind River Valley washed in deep blue. Snow glimmered under the fading light as Sam and Mira walked back toward town, slowly, quietly, their breaths drifting into the dusk. Neither spoke much after Sam's confession by the frozen creek. The truth had settled between them like something fragile and warm, a fire newly lit. When they reached the main road, Mira stopped. Sam, she said softly, you don't have to walk me all the way. He looked at her, troubled but steady. I want to. That simple admission pulled at her chest. Then, will you let me walk you part of the way home? She asked, surprising herself. I'm not ready to end the day yet. His brows lifted, faint and unsure. My cabin is out near the foothills. It's not an easy walk. I don't mind. Sam hesitated. He wasn't used to being followed home, or to being wanted in the small human ways most people took for granted. Mira held his gaze. Let me see the place where you rest your thoughts. Sam swallowed once, then nodded. All right. They crossed the open stretch north of town where snow lay untouched except for the trail of his boots. The valley was quiet, except for distant coyote calls and the muffled crunch beneath their feet. The cold bit through Mira's coat, but Sam walked close enough that she felt a pocket of warmth around them. After a long silence, she spoke. "Feels different tonight." Sam's breath fogged in the air. "How so you feel different?" she said. "Not lighter, but more open." He glanced at her. "Truth does that. It hurts, but it clears things." She smiled faintly. "Pain doesn't scare me." His jaw shifted, something softer passing through his eyes. "It scares me," he said quietly. "Putting it on someone else." Mira stopped walking, boots sinking into the snow. "Sam, you didn't put anything on me. You shared something with me. That's different." He looked at her for a long moment, the cold wind brushing past them. Then he continued walking. By the time they reached the clearing where his cabin stood, night had fallen completely. The small structure glowed faintly from the single window where Sam must have left a lamp earlier. Smoke rose from the chimney, thin and curling. Mira took in the scene: rough-hewn logs, a modest porch wood stacked neatly beside the door. No decorations, no signs of another life shared within. Only practicality and solitude. "This is it," Sam said, sounding almost apologetic. "It's beautiful," she said. "It's plain." "Plain things last," she replied. "There's beauty in that." He opened the door for her. Warmth spilled out immediately, a welcome contrast to the cold night. The cabin interior was small but tidy. A narrow bed against the far wall. A table with 2 chairs. A shelf lined with a few books and tins of coffee. A small stove in the corner cast a soft red glow across the room. But what struck Mira most was the effort. A second chair had been pulled near the table, a blanket folded neatly across the seat. A pot of stew simmered gently on the stove. And on the table a lantern had been lit, illuminating the room with warm light that softened the rough edges. Her breath caught. "Sam, you prepared." He looked away, rubbing the back of his neck. "Didn't expect you to notice." "I noticed," she said gently. "Everything." He motioned toward the table, uneasy but sincere. "Sit, if you'd like." Mira removed her gloves and settled into the chair. Sam filled 2 bowls with stew, hearty, simple, steaming. He placed one in front of her, then sat across from her. They ate in silence at first, the kind that hummed with unspoken emotions. Mira let the warmth seep into her. Sam watched her more than he watched his bowl, as if memorizing the way she fit into this room he'd never imagined sharing. When she set her spoon down, she said quietly, "This feels peaceful." Sam's mouth lifted into a faint smile. "Haven't had anyone say that about this place. It feels like you." He looked up sharply. "Is that good or bad?" "Good," she said softly, "because I like the way you feel." His breath caught the slightest tremor in his chest. He rose abruptly, moving toward the window as if needing space to think. Mira watched him, reading the lines of tension in his back. "Sam, what's wrong?" He didn't turn. "I don't know how to do this." "Do what?" He exhaled slowly. "Let someone in. Not like this." She stood and approached him, her footsteps quiet against the wooden floor. She stopped close enough that she could feel the heat from his body. "You don't have to know how," she said. "You just have to want to." He turned then, and the flicker of emotion in his eyes, fear, longing, disbelief rushed through her like a bolt of warmth. "I do want to," he said, voice low. "I just don't want to ruin anything. I've ruined enough in this life." Mira reached up and touched his cheek lightly. Sam Blackthorne, you are not a ruin. He closed his eyes at her touch, leaning into her palm, as though he'd been starved for simple affection. When his eyes opened again, they were softer than she'd ever seen. Mira, he whispered. Her breath hitched. Yes. He bent slightly slow, deliberate, giving her time to pull away if she chose. She didn't. Their lips met gently at first, like two people learning the shape of something they'd been afraid to reach for. Then deeper, with growing certainty, the warmth of it spreading through her, as if thawing something inside him too. When they parted, Sam rested his forehead against hers. I haven't felt this in a long time. I haven't either, Mira whispered. He stepped back reluctantly, letting air return to the space between them. Outside, the wind shifted again. A hollow gust rattled the window. The storm Sam warned of earlier gathered somewhere behind the ridge. Mira heard it. Sam did too. His expression changed softness, replaced by alertness. You feel it, she said. I do. He looked at her with a mix of tenderness and caution. There's something coming. Someone. I don't know when. Then whatever comes, Mira said steadily, we face it together. He took her hand, briefly squeezed it once, then released. Walk me back, she asked, though she already knew the answer. Always, Sam said. He extinguished the lantern, grabbed his coat, and stepped outside with her. The night was colder now, sharper. Tracks the wind could not yet erase marked the snow along the riverbank. Sam glanced at them, jaw tight. Tomorrow, he murmured, I'm going back to the ridge. Mira nodded. She understood. As he walked her back toward town, their hands brushed now and then, not held, not quite separate either. The storm gathered behind them like a rising breath, and somewhere in the valley, unseen but certain, a rider was closing in. Some tracks cross your path, some circle it, some chase it down. The next morning broke with a bleak, bone-cold stillness that seeped into every crack of Wind River Valley. A thin fog clung to the tree line, coiling low across the snow like something alive. The sun was only a pale smear behind heavy clouds, and the air tasted of coming trouble. Elijah Two Rivers had been awake before dawn. He crouched near the ridge overlooking the river, fingertips pressed to the snow. His breath curled slow from his nose as he followed the faint drag of hoofprints hidden beneath the morning crust. The tracks were fresher now. One horse, broad-shouldered, heavy rider, slow-moving, deliberate, not lost. Elijah straightened, jaw tightening. He's still here. He looked toward town, toward Sam Blackthorne's cabin, somewhere beyond the cottonwoods. Sam wasn't going to like this. But the valley didn't care about Sam's peace. The valley carried its own stories, and sometimes those stories circled back. Elijah mounted his paint horse and headed for Wind River. Mira Fallon stepped onto the schoolhouse porch, just as the children began to arrive. Frost glittered across the railings. The cold burned her cheeks, but Sam's steady, gentle kiss from the night before still warmed something deep inside her. She wasn't sure what naming it would do, so she didn't name it. She simply held it close. Sam had walked her home under a silent sky, his presence steady as the mountains themselves. She had slept with that steadiness wrapped around her like a blanket. She glanced toward the road, half expecting him to appear in the morning haze, but he didn't. Instead, Red Elk approached the schoolhouse first, leaning on his walking stick. He carried a small bag of dried sage in one hand. "Morning, Miss Fallon," he said. "Morning," she replied. "Is everything all right?" He looked toward the ridge. Tracks again. Mira felt her stomach drop. Sam told me he was going out to check. Red Elk nodded, unreadable. Then he'll find what's following him. The words chilled her. Before she could ask more, Elijah rode into the schoolyard, his horse kicking up powdery snow. He slid down quickly, urgency etched into his movements. "Miss Fallon," he said, offering her a quick nod before turning to Red Elk. "I found his trail. And the riders." Where Red Elk asked. "Near the north side of the ridge. Same set as yesterday." Elijah lowered his voice. "He's circling." Mira swallowed. "You mean he's watching Sam?" "Or the schoolhouse," Elijah said. "But Sam's the one he wants." A shiver ran through Mira that had nothing to do with the cold. "Is Sam in danger?" she whispered. Elijah exchanged a look with Red Elk. It spoke more than either man cared to say aloud. "Danger moves like hunger," Red Elk said quietly. "Sometimes slow, sometimes sudden, but always toward what it wants." Elijah cleared his throat. "We should find Sam before he finds the rider. Or before the rider found him." Mira steadied herself. "Go. Please." Elijah touched his hat brim, mounted again, and rode off fast toward the foothills. Red Elk lingered. "Be careful today," he said. "I will," Mira replied, "and watch the shadows near the windows." She didn't ask what he meant. She already knew. School began as usual, though nothing about the day felt usual. Mira taught reading, but her eyes drifted to the windows. She taught sums, but her mind counted the minutes since Elijah left. She listened to children recite their lessons, but her heart listened for the echo of hoofbeats coming from the ridge. The stove crackled in the corner, giving off uneven warmth. The children's chatter filled the room. Life went on as if danger wasn't pressing close. But it was. Just after noon, Mira stepped outside to fetch more coal from the shed. The cold hit her full force, biting through her coat. She scanned the tree line instinctively and froze. A rider. Far off near the pine grove, edging the ridge, too distant to see clearly, but the silhouette was unmistakable. She watched the figure sit motionless, horse shifting beneath him in the brittle cold, watching the schoolhouse, watching her, watching everything. Her pulse thudded painfully. She blinked once, twice, and the rider turned his mount, disappearing behind the trees like smoke. Mira stumbled backward, breath catching. Sam. He needed to know. He needed... The door behind her creaked open. She turned sharply. It wasn't Sam. It was Deputy Clara Holt. Clara's expression was carved from something hard and controlled. She stepped outside, adjusting her coat against the wind. "You saw him too." Mira swallowed. "You've been watching the ridge since yesterday." Clara's jaw tightened. "Tracks don't lie. And neither do shadows." "He was right there," Mira whispered. "Just watching." Clara took a slow breath. "Whoever he is, he's got patience. And a reason." Her eyes narrowed. "Sam, tell you anything yet?" Mira stiffened. "He told me enough." "Then you know this ties back to Bitter Creek." Mira didn't flinch. "I know Sam carries guilt. But he didn't kill that girl on purpose." Clara studied her a long moment as if weighing her words. "Accident or not. Some men don't forgive easy." A gust of wind swept across the yard, swirling snow around their boots. "You need to stay close to the children," Clara said. "And you need to stay inside. Trouble will come from that ridge before it comes from anywhere else." Mira nodded shakily. Clara turned on her heel and strode toward town, each step purposeful. Mira watched her go, heart pounding. Something had shifted today, something close enough to see. By the time the last child left that afternoon, Mira's nerves were raw. The valley had gone unnervingly still, the way air goes, still before a heavy snowfall or a blow. She stepped onto the porch, scanning the fading light. Elijah should have been back by now, she whispered to herself. Then she heard footsteps crunch over the snow. Sam. He emerged from the trees behind the schoolhouse, breathing hard, snow clinging to his coat and hair. His expression was fierce and sharp with worry. Mira. She felt her knees weaken in relief. Sam! He reached her in 3 long strides. You all right? Yes. But there was a rider. I saw him watching the schoolhouse. Sam's eyes darkened. I know. You saw him, I found his tracks. Elijah tracked the rest. His voice dropped. He's close. Too close. Who is he? She asked, even though fear already curled through her chest. Sam looked away, jaw clenched. Someone from Bitter Creek. Jonas Hale. Sam didn't answer. He didn't need to. Mira felt the truth settle inside her with cold certainty. Sam, she whispered, voice trembling despite her effort. What's he going to do? Sam drew in a slow, pained breath. I don't know. But his eyes told her the truth. Jonas Hale wasn't circling to scare him. He was circling to corner him. Mira reached out and grasped Sam's sleeve. We'll face this. Together. Sam shook his head. No, not this. Jonas blames me for everything. He'll use anyone he can to get to me. You think he'd hurt me? Sam didn't answer. That was answer enough. A heavy silence hung between them, broken only by the distant creak of ice on the river. Finally, Sam said, I need to speak with Clara. And Elijah. We need to plan. And me, Mira asked. Sam's voice dropped. You need to go home before dark. Sam. Please, he said, quiet and raw. Not as a command, as a favor. She held his gaze, breath trembling, then nodded. Sam exhaled with relief, though fear still lingered in the lines of his face. As he walked her back toward town, neither spoke. The snow beneath their boots made soft crunches in the growing dusk. Behind them, the ridge loomed like a shadow waiting to move. And somewhere among its trees, Jonas Hale watched the valley with a single purpose. He had found Sam Blackthorn's tracks. And now he intended to follow them home. Hat low, voice steady. He knew Sam Blackthorn the way only grief can know a man. Wind River Valley held its breath the morning Jonas Hale rode in. The sky was a washed-out gray, the kind that made every shadow look longer, every sound sharper. Snow crunched under the hooves of the stranger's horse as he entered town, moving slow, deliberate, unhurried, like a man who had crossed miles not for speed, but for certainty. Jonas Hale sat tall in the saddle. His coat was worn dusted with frost. His hat brim dipped low, hiding his eyes except for the glint that flashed now and then when he turned his head. The horse beneath him, a thick-chested bay, looked tired, but obedient, steam rising from its nostrils. People stepped aside instinctively. The smith paused mid-swing. Callie Mercer stilled on her porch. A couple of ranch hands stopped stacking crates. Even the deputy's dog went silent. Jonas reined in near Lila's diner. His gaze swept the street once slow and measured. He wasn't looking to take in the town. He was looking for one man. Mira Fallon didn't see him arrive. She was inside the schoolhouse staring at her students with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Her mind was elsewhere, still tangled in Sam's worry, in the way his jaw tightened last night, when he said Jonas's name in the way his shoulders squared, as if bracing for something heavy. She tried to focus. She really did. But Sam had left early this morning without stopping by, without a word. And that told her everything she needed to know about what he feared was coming. The door opened suddenly, letting in a gust of frigid air. Mira turned, expecting a child late to class. Instead, Deputy Clara Holt stood in the doorway, scanning the room with sharp eyes. "Miss Fallon," she said quietly. A moment. Mira's heart lurched. She nodded to the children. "Keep reading. I'll be right back." Outside, Clara shut the door behind them. "He's here," Clara said. Mira didn't need to ask who. Her pulse quickened. "Jonas." Clara nodded. "Rode in about 10 minutes ago. Calm as a lake in winter." "Where is Sam?" Mira's voice cracked before she could hide it. "Haven't seen him." Clara's jaw tightened. "But Jonas is waiting." "That much is clear." Mira's stomach dropped. "For Sam or for blood," Clara said bluntly. "Men like that don't travel halfway across the territory for conversation." Mira steadied herself. "What do you need me to do?" Clara hesitated, not something she usually did. "Keep the children inside. Don't let anyone wander, and—" She paused. "Stay away from Jonas." Mira drew a breath. "If he comes here—" "He won't," Clara said quickly. "Not yet. He'll want to confront Sam first." "Should Sam confront him alone?" Mira asked. Clara looked away. "Truth is, Sam might have to." The weight of that settled heavily in Mira's chest. Clara touched the brim of her hat. "Keep your door locked." She strode away, boots crunching sharply in the snow. Mira watched her go cold, gathering deep in her rib cage. Jonas Hale had come to Wind River, and Sam was nowhere in sight. Sam wasn't far. He had seen Jonas the minute he entered town. He'd been standing behind the livery stable, jaw clenched, breath caught somewhere between fury and regret. Jonas Hale. 8 years hadn't changed the man. His posture was the same, rigid, controlled, calculating. His face bore new lines carved by grief and time. His shoulders carried the kind of exhaustion that didn't come from travel. Sam stepped into the street. Jonas turned his horse slightly enough for his gaze to land on Sam with chilling accuracy. They stared at each other across 30 feet of snow. Neither spoke. Neither moved. People scattered like dry leaves caught in crosswind. Jonas finally dismounted, boots crunching the snow. He didn't rush. He didn't posture. He simply stood there, head angled slightly downward, eyes locked onto Sam, with a look Sam knew well. Grief, anger, and something colder. "I wondered how long you'd stay hidden." Jonas said, voice quiet but steady. "I wasn't hiding," Sam replied. "No," Jonas's lips twitched. "Then why'd it take me 8 years to find you?" Sam didn't answer. He didn't trust his voice. Jonas took one step forward. "You know why I'm here." Sam did. But hearing it aloud cut deeper than any knife. Jonas's jaw tightened. "You took her from me." Sam swallowed. "I didn't mean to. That bullet didn't care what you meant." Silence sliced through the street. People watched from behind windows, breath fogging the glass. No one dared come outside. Jonas continued, voice still calm, too calm. "She was 14, Sam." Sam's chest constricted. "I know, do you?" Jonas stepped closer. "Do you know what it's like to bury someone who wasn't supposed to die?" "Yes," Sam whispered. I do. Jonas flinched at the softness in Sam's voice. He looked away for a heartbeat, jaw clenching. When he looked back, his expression had hardened. You left, Jonas said. You didn't stand trial. I did, Sam replied gently. You just didn't stay to hear it. Jonas's eyes flashed. Because the law failed her. Sam didn't argue. He knew Jonas's pain too well. Jonas's voice dropped. I didn't come here for forgiveness. I didn't expect you to. I came here to finish what never got finished. Sam felt the tension shift in the air, like ice cracking beneath a man's feet. He didn't reach for his gun. He didn't raise his hands. He didn't move. He just said, If you're here for revenge, you won't find peace. Jonas stepped forward until only a few feet separated them. Peace wasn't something you left me. Sam breathed in slowly, eyes closing as if bracing against a blow. Jonas, he said quietly, she ran right where I aimed. I'd trade places with her if I could. Jonas's expression twisted pain, rage, sorrow all at once. Too late, he whispered. He brushed past Sam's shoulder, hitting Sam's as he passed. It wasn't a strike, but it was a message. Jonas headed toward the saloon boots, sinking deep with every step. He didn't look back. Sam didn't follow. He felt eyes watching him, Callie's from the doorway of her store, the smith from behind his anvil, Clara Holt from halfway down the street, but he couldn't look at any of them. His breath hitched. His hands shook. Jonas Hale had come not for truth, but for reckoning. Mira saw Sam before Sam saw her. She'd left the schoolhouse during recess to check the yard for new tracks. But the moment she turned toward the main street, she saw him standing alone, snow settling on his shoulders. He looked like a man who'd just taken a bullet straight to the heart. Sam, she called softly. He turned slowly. His eyes were hollow in a way she had never seen, like something inside him had been pulled loose. He's here, Sam said. Yes, Mira whispered. I know. He swallowed hard. It's worse than I thought. She stepped closer. Sam, what did he say? Enough. Sam's voice cracked. He's not going to let this go. Mira reached for his hand. He didn't pull away. You don't have to face him alone, she said. Sam squeezed her hand gently, eyes full of sorrow she didn't know how to ease. I might not get a choice. A sharp gust of wind cut across the street, carrying with it a faint echo of Jonas Hale's bootsteps. And Mira knew, a lie in the right mouth can burn a whole valley. By late afternoon, Wind River felt different. Not louder, not busier, but taut, like a rope stretched too tight. Even the snow seemed to absorb sound instead of muffling it. People walked in clusters rather than alone. Doors stayed open only long enough for someone to slip through. Eyes tracked every footstep on the street. Sam Blackthorne felt all of it. He stood behind Lila's diner, leaning against the cold plank wall, trying to steady his breath. Jonas Hale had walked into town like a storm wearing a man's skin. No shouting, no threats, just a look, a history, and a purpose. Sam had waited 8 years for this moment, and still he wasn't ready. A crunch of boots in the snow made him turn. Elijah Two Rivers stepped around the corner. Expression grim. I saw him. Jonas. Sam rubbed a hand across his jaw. Yeah. He's here. Elijah nodded slowly. Red Elk says truth stirs when shadows do. Sam huffed a tired breath. I wish truth was all I had to deal with. Elijah's expression sharpened. What do you mean? Sam didn't answer, because something else caught his attention, faint movement near the end of the alley. A figure in a thick coat. someone he didn't recognize. The man lingered for half a second too long, then walked on. Sam stiffened. People are watching. Elijah followed his gaze. Not just people. What did you find up on the ridge this morning? Sam asked. Elijah hesitated. Tracks coming in from the east. Fresh. Jonas didn't travel alone. Sam felt a cold ripple down his spine. Someone else with him, maybe not riding beside him, Elijah said. Maybe shadowing him. Hard to say. Sam cursed under his breath. Trouble rarely came one horse at a time. Before Elijah could speak again, footsteps approached from the street. Clara Holt appeared face hard as winter stone. We need a talk, she said. Sam straightened. About Jonas, no, Clara said. About what he's telling people. Sam's gut twisted. He's been talking. Oh, he's talking all right. Clara's mouth tightened. And folks are listening. Inside Lila's diner, the air was thick with the smell of stew and tension. Sam followed Clara in with Elijah at his side. Conversations faltered when they entered. People leaned just slightly away, not out of fear, but out of that wary uncertainty that comes when they sense something shifting. Jonas Hale sat at a corner table. He wasn't eating. He wasn't drinking. He was speaking in low, calm tones to two ranch hands Sam barely knew. The men leaned close, their interest sharpened. Then Jonas lifted his head. His eyes locked on Sam's and the room tightened like a fist. Clara nudged Sam toward a table near the door. Sit, she murmured. Let me handle the first part. Sam obeyed, though his muscles coiled like a trap. Clara stepped toward Jonas' boots ringing against the wooden floor. Jonas Hale, she said evenly. We need a word. Jonas leaned back in his chair. I'm not hard to find. Sam watched from the corner, every nerve alert. Jonas's calm was worse than anger. Calm meant planning. Calm meant knowing exactly what weapon he meant to use. What are you telling people? Clara asked. Jonas shrugged one shoulder. Just the truth. Clara's jaw flexed. Which version? Jonas smiled faintly. The one that matters. Sam stood abruptly, unable to stay silent. Jonas, sit down! Sam, Clara snapped. Jonas looked at Sam with a kind of cold pity. Funny thing about the truth, he said, turning back to Clara. Folks don't need much of it. Just enough to plant a doubt. Clara crossed her arms. You're not planting doubt. You're planting trouble. Jonas didn't blink. Sometimes trouble belongs to someone. Sam stepped forward before Clara could stop him. You say your piece to me, Jonas. Not them. Jonas turned fully toward him now, hat brim lifting just enough to reveal the hard lines of his face. I'm saying my piece to everyone who'll hear it. What truth? Sam demanded. Jonas's gaze sharpened. That you shot a girl who never raised a hand against you. Sam's jaw dropped slightly, not at the accusation, but at the quiet confidence Jonas wielded it with. You left out the part where she ran into the bullet, Sam said. The part you refused to hear. Jonas rose slowly from his chair. The diner fell silent. She ran, Jonas said calmly, because she was scared. Because you fired too early. Because you misjudged the shot. Sam's breath hitched. I know. Jonas took one step forward. And then you disappeared. I left Bitter Creek, Sam said softly. Because you told me you'd kill me if I stayed. Jonas's face didn't change. And here I am. Clara moved between them. That's enough, no, Jonas said quietly. Not yet. Sam braced himself as Jonas stepped closer, stopping barely an arm's length away. You think I'm here to shoot you in the street? Jonas asked. Sam held his gaze. I don't know what you're here to do. Jonas's voice dropped to a razor-thin whisper meant for Sam alone. I'm here to tell the valley what you are. Sam's heartbeat thudded against his ribs. Jonas continued. And I'm here to watch them choose. A cold tremor went through Sam. Choose what Jonas looked him in the eye. Whether Wind River wants you living among their children. The words hit Sam harder than a blow. A chair scraped. Someone muttered. Another whispered. And Sam saw it. The shift. Not everyone turned away, not yet, but doubt had entered the room, oiled and sharp-edged. Doubt Jonas had delivered with precision. Jonas stepped back casually, as if he'd merely commented on the weather. You've lived here long enough, he said. Time folks knew who repaired their roofs and warmed their schoolhouse. That's not your choice to make, Clara warned. Jonas tipped his hat. It wasn't my choice to lose a sister either. The room froze. All the air felt sucked out of Sam's lungs. Jonas walked past him without a glance. But as he passed, he said one more thing under his breath. You can't outrun truth, Sam. I didn't. Sam stood rooted, the room a blur around him. Clara grabbed his arm. Don't rise to him. Not now. Elijah stepped closer too, voice low. He's dividing the valley. Sam stared at the door Jonas had walked through. He's doing more than that, he said almost to himself. He's convincing them. Convincing them of what Clara asked. That I'm a danger, Sam whispered. And suddenly, it all clicked into place. Jonas didn't want a public fight. He didn't want a street draw. He wanted Sam alone, isolated, without allies, without Mira. Sam's chest tightened painfully. He didn't feel fear for himself. He felt fear for her. He rushed out of the diner, coat whipping behind him. Elijah called after him. Sam, where are you going? Sam didn't stop. To Mira, because if Jonas was willing to twist a valley with his grief, she would be the first person he tried to turn Sam away from, and Sam would not let that happen. If Wind River turns its back on you, I won't. Not now. Not ever. By the time Sam reached the schoolhouse, the sun hovered low behind thick clouds, pale as a dying ember. The day had sharpened into that strange stillness the valley felt before heavy snowfall. His breath came fast, not from the run, but from panic he could no longer pretend wasn't there. He had seen Jonas's face, heard his voice, watched doubt ripple through the diner like heat off a summer road. Jonas wasn't here for justice anymore. He was here to ruin Sam's life before he took it. Sam reached for the schoolhouse door. It opened before he could touch it. Mira stood in the doorway, shawl wrapped around her shoulders, eyes widening when she saw him. Her hands tightened around the doorframe, concern washing through her expression. Sam, she breathed. What happened? He stepped inside, chest heaving, snow shaking from his coat. Children were gone for the day, benches cleared, chalk rests crooked on the board. Only the two of them remained in the warm, shadowed room. Sam shut the door behind him and braced a hand against it, trying to steady himself. Jonas is talking to people, he said, turning them. Mira swallowed. I thought he might. No. Sam shook his head. You don't understand. He's not yelling. He's not angry. He's calm. And a calm man with grief like his voice cracked. He's dangerous in ways a gunfight can't fix. Mira stepped toward him. Tell me exactly what he said. Sam looked at her eyes raw. That I'm a danger to this valley. That the children shouldn't be around me. That I left Bitter Creek because I was guilty. She inhaled sharply, fury rising beneath her calm exterior. That is not the truth. Sam dragged a hand through his hair. Doesn't matter, truth takes time. A lie. He let out a hollow laugh. A lie can spread faster than a winter wind. Mira watched him pace, watched how the room became too small for the weight on his shoulders. Sam, she said quietly, look at me. He stopped. Slowly, he lifted his eyes. Mira stepped forward until she stood inches from him. You are not what he's painting you as. People believe him, Sam said. I saw it in their eyes. Callie. The Smith. Men I barely know. They're already wondering why I came here. Why I kept quiet. You kept quiet because it hurt, Mira said firmly. Not because you were hiding. Sam shook his head, starting to walk away again, but Mira caught his hand firm, certain. He froze. You listen to me, she said, voice low and fierce. If Wind River turns its back on you, I won't. Not now. Not ever. Sam's breath hitched, something breaking loose inside him. Mira, I don't want you caught in this. I already am, she whispered. Something shifted in his expression, fear, longing, and relief all at once. He lowered his forehead to hers, exhaling shakily. Mira, he murmured, Jonas may come here. He may try to twist you too. She didn't move. Let him try. The door creaked suddenly behind them. They pulled apart just as Red Elk entered, his face grave, bootsteps soft as he crossed the wooden floor. You two need to hear something, he said, without greeting. Sam straightened. What is it? Red Elk's eyes flicked to the windows, then back to them. Jonas isn't the only one spreading stories. Mira stiffened. What do you mean Elijah just came from the South Road? Red Elk paused. He saw strangers. Sam's pulse surged. Riders. A man and a boy, Red Elk said. Carrying supplies. Asking questions about the schoolhouse. About you. He looked directly at Sam. They weren't with Jonas, but they were looking for him. Sam felt cold spread through him. Why couldn't hear much, Red Elk said. But one thing stood out. He turned toward Mira. They used the girl's name. Mira's breath stopped. Jonas's sister, Red Elk, nodded. Sam felt the ground tilt. If strangers were coming from other towns, chasing rumors, chasing old pain, then this wasn't just a private reckoning anymore. It was spreading. Does Jonas know they're here? Sam asked. Doesn't seem so, Red Elk said. But he will. Sam sank onto one of the benches, feeling the world constrict around him. Mira sat beside him instantly, her hand catching his, before he could pull away. What's their goal? She asked Red Elk. Red Elk shook his head. Don't know. But strangers don't ride this far in winter for gossip. Sam muttered, they want proof. Or vengeance. Sam, Mira warned gently. He stared ahead, the old guilt coiling back around him like barbed wire. I knew Jonas might come, but I didn't expect others. That's how pain grows, Red Elk said quietly, like wildfire. One spark touches another. Mira's voice trembled with resolve. Then we do what people should have done 8 years ago. Sam looked at her. She lifted her chin. We speak truth, not whispers, not rumors. Truth. Sam's eyes softened. Mira, no. She leaned closer. You can't outrun this anymore, and you can't face it alone. Let the valley hear the real story from you. Sam shook his head. They'll think I'm just trying to clear my name. Let them think whatever they want, Mira said. You speak anyway. Red Elk nodded. She's right. Jonas is shaping the valley's mind. If you stay silent, he wins before a gun is ever drawn. Sam rubbed his temples. I don't want a showdown. Then give them something else to stand on, Red Elk said. Sam looked at Mira. You'd stand with me while I tell them I will stand with you, Mira said, voice soft, but unwavering through all of it. Emotion trembled across his face. He laced his fingers with hers, silent but grateful. I'm scared, he said quietly. I know, she whispered. But you're not alone. Outside, the wind began to rise, blowing snow sideways across the empty yard. Sam finally stood. I'll talk to Clara. Arrange a time, a place. Maybe tomorrow afternoon. Red Elk nodded. Choose the square. That's where folks listen. Sam exhaled. All right. He squeezed Mira's hand one more time, then stepped toward the door. But Mira stopped him with a touch to his arm. Sam. Jonas won't like this. Sam met her eyes. I know. Do you think he'll try to stop you? He paused. Yes. Mira swallowed hard. Then what do we do? Sam's expression sharpened, quiet determination forming like ice. We do it anyway. The door swung closed behind him, the wind howling outside like a warning. Red Elk watched Sam disappear into the storm-dark afternoon. There's more coming, he murmured. Mira's pulse thudded in her throat. More Red Elk nodded. When truth rises, lies rise too. So even your silence carries weight, he can twist Sam. Speak before he speaks for you. Wind River had known tension before. Winters that starved cattle. Droughts that split soil. Arguments between ranchers. But it had never felt a tension like this, quiet, watchful, waiting to snap. By dawn, word had spread through the valley like sparks on dry brush. Sam Blackthorne was going to speak in the town square this afternoon. Some welcomed the idea. Some feared it. Some whispered that Jonas Hale wouldn't let him speak at all. By the time Sam stepped out of his cabin, the air was sharp with that strange, brittle cold that comes before a heavy storm. His breath came in slow clouds. His boots crunched along the path he'd walked for years, usually alone, usually unnoticed. Not today. Today people saw him. Today rumors moved faster than footfalls. Sam felt the weight of each stair as he walked down Wind River's main road. Doors opened just wide enough for someone to watch him pass. Two ranch hands paused from loading hay, murmuring low to each other. A set of Shoshone children waved hesitantly. He gave them a soft nod, grateful for the small kindness. But he could feel how the town had split. Pressure pressed into his chest. He had chosen to speak. Now he had to survive the moment. And Jonas Hale had not shown himself yet. Mira Fallon was already in the schoolhouse when Sam arrived. She was setting her books in order, sleeves rolled back, hair pulled into a loose braid. She paused when she saw him enter, and something eased in her eyes. "You're early," she said softly. "I didn't sleep much." "I didn't either." The room was warm from the stove, but Sam still rubbed his hands as if trying to bring life back into them. "You think people will listen?" he asked. Mira moved closer. Yes. You sound certain. I am. She reached out and touched his coat sleeve. Sam, this valley is full of decent people. They just need to hear your truth before they hear Jonas's version of it again. Sam let out a breath that trembled faintly. Truth doesn't erase what happened. No. But truth shows who you are now, and they need to see that. Sam met her gaze. And if they don't, then I speak with you, she said firmly. They can doubt one voice. It's harder to doubt two. Sam swallowed carefully. Mira, I don't deserve you standing with me. Maybe not 8 years ago, she said, but you do now. His breath stilled. Before either could say more, the door opened quietly, and Red Elk stepped inside. Frost clung to his coat. His expression was serious. Sam, Red Elk said, Clara sent me. Jonas is back at the diner. He isn't trying to hide anymore. Sam tensed. Has he said anything? Red Elk nodded once. Enough to gather ears. Mira looked at Sam. He's provoking you. Sam's jaw tightened. I know. All the more reason you have to speak first, Red Elk added. Even your silence carries weight he can twist, Sam. Speak before he speaks for you. Sam exhaled, shoulders sagging. What time? Noon, Red Elk said. Clara is clearing the square now. Mira picked up her shawl. Then we go early. Sam blinked. You're coming with me, she moved toward him with quiet certainty. I told you yesterday. I'm with you. A long silence settled between them. Sam finally nodded. All right, he murmured. Let's go. The walk to the square felt longer than it ever had before. Sam, Mira, and Red Elk moved through the center of town as faces slowly turned toward them, some curious, some cautious, some cold. Clara Holt stood near the edge of the square, hand resting on the revolver at her hip, eyes sharp. She gave Sam a brief nod when she saw him. You ready? Clara asked. No, Sam said honestly. But I'm here. Clara's mouth twitched in the faintest hint of respect. The town gathered slowly. Families bundled in coats. Ranchers in dusted hats. Shoshone families who stood a little apart but watched closely. Children clung to their mothers' skirts. Men Sam had helped chop wood for last winter now stared at him like trying to decide if they truly knew him. Sam swallowed hard. He'd expected fear. He hadn't expected disappointment. Mira stood beside him, one hand brushing his, not quite holding and quite letting go. Red Elk stood on his other side, steady as a mountain. Clara stepped forward. Folks, she called, her voice clean and commanding. Thank you for coming. A matter's been whispered through this town long enough. Sam Blackthorne has asked for your ears. A murmur swept the crowd. Sam stepped forward. The world felt too quiet. He cleared his throat. Some of you know pieces of what happened in Bitter Creek. Some heard only rumors. Some heard only Jonas Hale's grief. A few heads lifted at Jonas's name. Some stiffened. Some nodded. Sam continued, voice steady, though his hands shook at his sides. 8 years ago, I made a mistake with a gun I should not have fired. I believed I saw a hostage. I believed I had one clear shot. Mira held her breath. Sam swallowed. I was wrong. The crowd went still. A girl lost her life because of me, he said, voice thick. Not from malice, not from carelessness, but from a mistake a lawman should never make. A woman near the front pressed a hand to her mouth. A man in the back lowered his head. Sam kept going. The court cleared me. Jonas didn't. and neither did I. So I left. I came here to be quiet, to work, to do something good with the time I never earned. Red Elk watched him with quiet approval. Clara watched him with respect. Sam's voice softened. I don't ask for forgiveness. I don't expect it. I don't deserve it. He glanced at Mira. But I'm asking for the right to keep living here, to keep helping where I can, to keep building something worth standing in. A stir moved through the crowd, a ripple of uncertainty, sympathy, pain. Then a voice cut through them like a knife blade. Well said. Jonas Hale stepped into the square. The crowd parted like water. Sam stiffened. Mira reached for his arm instinctively. Red Elk rested his hand on his walking stick, ready. Jonas walked slowly, hat-low coat brushing snow. Fine speech, Sam. Almost had me believing it. Sam faced him. Jonas, this isn't the time, isn't it? Jonas asked. Seems to me the perfect time. Whole valley watching. Truth on display. Clara took one step forward. Jonas let him finish. Oh, I heard enough, Jonas said. Man admits he killed my sister, accident or not, and he thinks we're going to clap him on the back and welcome him home. I never said. Sam tried. Jonas raised his voice. My sister is in the ground because of that shot. The crowd flinched. Mira stepped forward before Sam could. Jonas. Jonas turned on her sharply. Miss Fallon, you might be new here, but don't let this man make a fool of you. Sam's breath stopped. Jonas, leave her out of this. No, Jonas said, cold and precise. She needs to hear it. Everyone does. He looked back at the crowd. A mistake doesn't lessen a bullet. A good heart doesn't undo a grave. Mira moved again, standing between Sam and Jonas. He knows that. He lives with that. Every day. Jonas's eyes darkened. You speak like you've known him years. I've known his heart, Mira said. Longer than you know. A murmur rippled across the square. Jonas stared at her. You think standing with him changes truth? Mira didn't back down. No. But it stops your lies from shaping it. Silence cut deep. Then Jonas laughed, once a sharp, bitter sound. This valley will decide what it believes. He turned away. But I'm not done, Sam, he said over his shoulder. Not by a long mile. He strode out of the square coat, snapping in the wind. Sam felt his stomach sink. Clara approached quickly. He's not done, that's for damn sure. Red Elk murmured. Storm hasn't hit yet. Mira took Sam's hand in both of hers. Whatever comes, she said softly, we face it together. Sam nodded, though dread coiled deep inside him. Because Jonas wasn't the only threat. And Sam had seen a second rider watching from the tree line. The valley wasn't just divided now. It was being hunted. Guilt blinds men, but vengeance blinds them faster. Snow thickened as afternoon slid toward dusk, falling in slow, deliberate flakes that blurred the world into pale shapes. Wind River Valley lay under a heavy hush, the kind that didn't comfort so much as warn. Sam Blackthorne, Mira Fallon, Elijah, Two Rivers and Deputy Clara Holt walked away from the square together, the crowd slowly dispersing behind them with whispers trailing like thin smoke. Sam's shoulders sagged, the exhaustion of the speech and the confrontation with Jonas gripping him like cold iron. You did good, Clara said, her voice clipped but sincere. Sam shook his head. Doesn't feel like it. It wasn't supposed to feel good, Elijah said. It was supposed to be said. Mira slipped her hand into Sam's. He didn't look down, but his fingers tightened around hers. Red Elk had returned to the village earlier, leaving them with a parting warning. The storm in the valley was no longer just emotional. Something darker stirred. They walked a few more paces. Then Clara stopped suddenly, eyes narrowing at a set of fresh tracks cutting across the road. Horse prints, she murmured. Not Jonas's. Too narrow. Elijah crouched beside them, brushing away snow. He inhaled sharply. This rider came close. Very close. Sam stiffened. Same one from the ridge. Elijah didn't answer right away. Maybe. Mira swallowed. Meaning there's more than one man after you. Sam gave her a pained look. Mira, no, she said firmly. Don't pretend this is smaller than it is. Clara rose, brushing snow off her gloves. We need to figure out who this second rider is. Jonas didn't come here with an entourage. Sam nodded, jaw tight. This rider's been following him. Or following me. Mira's breath hitched. Following the schoolhouse. They all turned to her at once. Clara's voice sharpened. Did you see something? Mira nodded, her face pale. 2 days ago. A rider near the pines watching the school. Sam's body went rigid. Why didn't you tell me? I didn't want to feed your fear before knowing, Mira said softly. But now I know I should have. Sam's hand closed around hers, tightly, protectively. The wind howled, suddenly lifting snow off rooftops in sharp, ghostly curls. The valley darkened under the thickening clouds. Elijah stood, face grim. Someone circling both Jonas and Sam. But not for peace. Who is he? Mira whispered. Clara exchanged a long, heavy look with Elijah. My guess, someone who believes Jonas didn't go far enough. Elijah added, someone who holds their own story of what happened in Bitter Creek. Sam felt a chill deeper than the cold. I only ever saw the Blackwell brothers that day. Only them. No one else, That doesn't mean someone else didn't see you, Clara said quietly, or didn't lose something. Sam's breath came tight. If another family believes I'm responsible, they won't hear you out, Elijah said bluntly. They came for blood, and vengeance blinds faster than guilt, Clara added. They reached the schoolhouse. Snow clung thick to the windows, softening the edges of the building Sam had repaired with his own hands. Mira loosened her shawl, stepping inside with Sam following close behind. Elijah and Clara lingered outside, watching the road. Inside, the stove still held warmth. The chalkboard glowed faintly in the dimming light. Desks sat neatly arranged, silent witnesses to the storm gathering beyond these walls. Mira turned to Sam. You need to rest. Sam shook his head. Can't rest. Not now. Sam. I need to think. He paced, running a hand through his hair. 2 riders. One openly wants revenge. One hidden. If this second rider believes Jonas is too slow, he'll act alone, Mira finished. Sam stopped pacing. His eyes lifted to her, dark and pained. And he'll come at night. Mira crossed the room, placing her hands on his chest. Then you stay here, where we can see them coming. He blinked. Here, I'm not letting you go to that cabin alone, she said. Not tonight. Mira. No, she said, voice firm as a stone. If danger is riding this valley, I'd rather face it with you than hide from it without you. Sam lowered his forehead to hers, breath shaking. I don't deserve that. You don't need to deserve it, she whispered. You just need to let me. He closed his eyes, letting himself lean into her, even if just for a moment. A sharp knock at the door shattered the quiet. Sam straightened immediately, hand instinctively moving toward his holster. Clara's voice called from outside. "Sam. Mira. Open up." Sam pulled open the door. Clara's face was tight with urgency. Elijah stood behind her, scanning the tree line. "We found something," Clara said. Sam tensed. "Tracks." Numbered Elijah lifted a small piece of cloth torn from a coat caught on the fence near the schoolyard. "This." Sam took it, his stomach dropping. The material was coarse wool, brown, weather-stained, and marked with something dark. A name stitched in the corner. Jonas Hale. "No," Mira whispered. "He wouldn't," Sam shook his head. "It's not Jonas's coat. Not his stitching. Someone's wearing a piece of it." Clara's eyes flashed. A message. A threat, Elijah corrected. Pressure on Jonas. Pressure on Sam. "Or pressure on the valley," Mira said softly. Sam stared at the torn cloth heart, pounding from something deeper than fear. "Whoever this second rider is," Clara said, "he wants the valley afraid, and he wants you and Jonas to move toward each other." "He wants a killing," Elijah said. "And he'll get it," Sam whispered, "if we let him." Mira stepped closer to Sam, voice steady. "Then we won't let him." Sam looked at her, his chest tight with a gratitude that hurt. "What happens now?" Clara holstered her gun. "Now, you go somewhere safe." "My cabin won't hold," Sam said. "Too exposed." Clara nodded. "Then you stay at the boarding house with others nearby." Elijah added, "And Jonas stays where I can see him." Sam tensed. "Jonas won't like that." Elijah shrugged. "He doesn't have to." Mira placed her hand on Sam's. "And you?" Sam looked at her, really looked, and saw that she wasn't afraid to stand beside him. "Not even now." "I go where you go," she said simply. His breath shook. "I won't let you get hurt. You can't protect me by walking into danger alone," she replied. "You keep me safe by letting me stay close enough to hold you back when you need it." Sam let out a soft, pained laugh. "I'm not sure I deserve someone like you." Mira touched his cheek. "Then try to." The wind screamed across the valley, rattling the schoolhouse windows. Clara stepped back outside. "We move now. Storm's coming, and something's riding with it." Elijah nodded. "This valley won't sleep peaceful tonight." Sam took Mira's hand, anchoring himself in her steadiness. As they walked into the storm-darkening evening, Sam looked back at the schoolhouse, the place he had mended with his own hands, the place Mira had filled with warmth. He whispered under his breath, "Let this valley hold." But deep down he knew night would bring the second rider into the open, and the next dawn would not find Wind River unchanged. Storms don't end with gunfire. They end with what a man chooses after the smoke clears. Night dropped fast and heavy over Wind River Valley, swallowing the last of the daylight in a curtain of swirling snow. The wind rose in long, low breaths, bending the pines and pushing drifts up against porches and fences. The whole valley braced itself, not just for the storm, but for the violence riding in with it. Sam Blackthorne stood in the boarding house parlor coat, on jaw set, every muscle in his body drawn tight as wire. Mira Fallon stood beside him, shawl wrapped around her shoulders, her eyes steady and bright, despite the fear twisting beneath her ribs. Clara Holt paced near the windows, lantern in hand, checking the street for movement. Elijah Two Rivers waited by the front door, rifle across his back, as calm as a man standing on solid ground. Though Sam knew, he felt the earthquake under it, same as everyone else. The boarding house was full tonight. Ranchers' families, even Callie Mercer and Lila Chavez, had chosen to sleep here instead of alone in their homes. Jonas Hale occupied a room upstairs under Clara's orders, angry, caged, but safe. The storm outside roared. Inside, every heart thudded with the same question: would the second rider come tonight? A loud knock rattled the door. Elijah moved first, opening it only inches. Red Elk stepped inside, snow in his hair, breath misting in quick bursts. "Tracks," he said, "fresh ones, coming down from the ridge." Sam stiffened. "One rider." Red Elk shook his head. "Two." Mira swallowed. "Jonas and someone else know." Red Elk's eyes shifted to Sam. "Jonas is still upstairs." Sam felt cold spread down his spine. "Then who?" But the question answered itself in his gut. He looked at Elijah. Elijah nodded grimly. "The second rider," Elijah murmured, "and someone riding with him." Mira stepped closer to Sam. "What do they want?" Sam took a slow breath. "Jonas wants justice. The second rider wants blood. But together—" He shook his head. Elijah lifted the latch on his rifle. "We need to move Jonas." Clara snapped, "He stays put." "Not if they're coming for him too," Elijah said. Sam felt the weight of truth pressing in. The second rider wasn't just after him. Not anymore. He'd left a piece of Jonas's coat on the fence. A warning. A threat. A promise. "Clara," Sam said quietly, "whoever's out there wants us cornered. And Jonas is as much a target as I am." Clara's jaw worked. She hated admitting anyone needed protecting, especially Jonas Hale, but she wasn't blind. "All right," she said. "We bring him down here. But if he causes trouble, I'll deal with it," Sam said. Mira touched his arm. "Not alone." "All right," Sam murmured. "Not alone." Clara and Elijah went upstairs. Sam stayed with Mira and Red Elk in the parlor. The storm banged against the shutters like fists. The lanterns flickered. Mira's hand found Sam's fingers threading through his. "You holding together," she whispered. "Barely," Sam said. "Then borrow my steadiness." He smiled faintly, raw, grateful, shaken. Heavy footsteps descended the stairs. Jonas Hale appeared flanked by Clara and Elijah. His face was carved in stone. His eyes locked on Sam immediately, full of old grief and fresh fury. "What now?" Jonas asked. "You bringing me down here for show? Someone's coming," Sam said. "Two riders." Jonas's expression flickered something like recognition, then dread. "Who you tell us?" Clara said sharply. Jonas didn't answer. "Elijah found tracks," Sam said. "One of them left a piece of your coat on the schoolyard fence." Jonas swallowed hard. "Daniel." "Who's Daniel?" Mira asked. Jonas rubbed his forehead, breath shaking. "My cousin. My sister's blood. He and I haven't spoken in years." "Why?" Sam asked. Jonas closed his eyes briefly. "Because I didn't go after you hard enough." Mira inhaled sharply. "So he's here to finish the story," Jonas said. "The way he thinks it should have been finished." Sam stared at him. "By killing me." Jonas didn't dispute it. Clara exhaled a curse. "Then we have to prepare." "We'll take positions," Elijah said. "Parlor gives us sight lines to both doors." Mira stepped in front of Sam, blocking him with both arms. "No." "Mira," she said, voice sharp and shaking, "you are not walking into gunfire tonight." You hear me? Sam cupped her cheek. I'm not looking for a fight. The fight is looking for you, she said. Stop pretending it's not. Red Elk stepped between them gently. Listen. The cabin fell into silent tension. Outside, the storm shifted, not louder, not softer, but different. A break in the wind, a sudden stillness. The kind nature gives right before violence. Elijah went to the window and peered through the snow-frosted glass. They're here, he murmured. Sam's pulse thundered. Jonas stiffened. Clara drew her revolver. Mira grabbed Sam's coat sleeve, refusing to let go. Outside, two riders approached through the snow, slow, steady silhouettes shifting in the white. One was Daniel Hale. The other wore a scarf pulled high over his face, hat low. Sam couldn't see his eyes, but he could feel them. These men won't listen to words, Jonas said quietly. Not from me. Not from anyone. Then we keep the door closed, Clara snapped. But Sam shook his head. No. If we stay locked in, they'll shoot into the house. Too many people here. Mira's breath hitched. Sam, I have to talk to them, he said. Outside. No, she said sharply. Absolutely not. He put both hands on her shoulders. Mira. If I let Daniel bring the storm inside, innocent people could die. Children sleeping upstairs. Families. Lila. Callie. Her eyes filled with fear. You're asking me to let you walk out there alone. No, Sam said softly. I'm asking you to trust that I'll come back. She shook her head, tears burning. Sam. He leaned his forehead to hers. Whatever happens tonight, I need you to believe something. She swallowed. What, that you were the first good thing I let myself reach for, and I'm not letting go of it. Her breath trembled. Then don't make me bury you. I won't, Sam whispered. He kissed her, brief, fierce, full of everything he couldn't say. Then he stepped back. Jonas watched him, expression unreadable. You don't have to meet him alone. Sam nodded once. I know. Jonas exhaled. Then we go together. Clara stared at him. You sure? Jonas's jaw tightened. If my cousin dies tonight, it won't be by vengeance. And if Sam dies tonight, it won't be because I stayed silent. Elijah opened the door. Cold flooded in. Sam stepped out first. Jonas followed. Elijah and Clara stayed at the threshold, rifles ready. Mira grabbed the doorframe with white knuckles, watching him walk into the snow, heart breaking with every step. Sam approached Daniel Hale and the masked rider, calmly, snow swirling around him, like ghosted memory. He lifted his hands slightly. I'm done running, Sam called. If you want to end this, end it with me. Not the people inside. Daniel's voice cut through the storm. You took blood. Sam nodded. I know. You deserve blood. Sam swallowed. Then take mine. Daniel drew his gun. Mira cried out. But the masked rider reached over and pushed Daniel's arm down. Daniel froze. What? The rider pulled off the scarf, revealing a face Sam hadn't seen in 8 years. The youngest Blackwell brother. The one he thought had died. You aimed at me, the man said. Sam's breath vanished. No. You shot my cousin's girl instead, the outlaw said. And now I'm here to finish what you started. Sam stood in the snow, heart pounding, Myra crying silently from the doorway. Jonas trembling with rage beside him, Clara and Elijah ready to shoot. The storm roared. Night held its breath. And Sam knew what happened next would decide who lived to see morning. and whether Wind River would ever know peace again.